Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time, 8 o'clock Central, to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, success stories, and such. We did miss one day this past week. I believe it was Wednesday, if I remember correctly, because of ice here in Texas. But other than that, we get together most weekday mornings at this time. We've had a couple, I think, really good trainings this week that if you've missed, I encourage you to go back and listen to. For example, earlier this week on one of the sessions, we talked about taxes and filing taxes and how to deal with clients who haven't filed taxes and to have a decision matrix to decide, is it okay that they haven't filed or is it not okay? And of course, if it's not okay, in other words, they're not compliant, then what do we do about it? So that was an important one. And then just yesterday, we talked about creating industry benchmarks and putting together business plans and financial projections. So again, I think we've had some strong trainings this week, and I appreciate the positive feedback from many of you. Today, we're going to have a brief 15-minute training. We tend to try to make Fridays a little bit shorter so we can go back and close more deals for the week. So today, as should be described, or my screen should be shared with you, we're looking at the Building Your Loan Package Adobe. And so this is not new information, and there's no changes to it. But as we continue to add more and more, well, mainly white label partners, but also affiliates, it's important to understand this document, its relevance, and what you may want to do to encourage clients to engage so they're fully satisfied. So let's just talk about this document briefly. And again, I think many of you are familiar with it. It is a 2-page document that we started using a while back called Building Your Loan Package. If you are a white label partner, we'll provide you a Word version of this so you can edit it. You can put your logo and put your relevant contact information throughout. We send it when it's a direct client to us. We send it, and I'll talk more about what's on it. But as far as the how it's provided to the clients, we send it via Adobe after they signed a contract. So let's say we have a direct client, one directly with us, not through a white label partner. Once they enroll, we actually send them 2 Adobes back to back. One is this, the other is the funding app. We send those separate for a couple of reasons. One of which is that we don't want them to have any excuse or reason to ever come back and say, well, I didn't know what was going to happen, or I didn't know what to do, because that's the purpose of this document. The other one, of course, is to gather key data so we can get them their first tranche of financing and funding. So let's talk about, so how is it delivered? If it's a direct client, we're sending it to them via Adobe with daily reminders, and they are prompted to sign it. So it's kind of a CYA, if you will. We've demonstrated that we've onboarded the client, and it sends reminders on a daily basis. If you're a white label partner, it would be up to you how you want to send this out, but we can make sure you have an editable version of it, and you can edit it as you need. Now, the way that we're implementing has evolved a bit, not as of this training, but throughout last year. It used to be that our first step was to get the client on the phone after they've contracted. And frankly, we found that to not be very productive. Instead, we want to get on the phone with the client once we have their data set. Now, let's dig into that. So the data set is clearly illustrated here. It certainly clarifies it's not all or nothing, but we need to gather from the client what they do have. I even have a white label partner who was kind of agitated this week. And it's like, man, I don't know. I didn't know I need to collect this from the client. Well, okay, so that's why we're having the training. So this is the data set, and I'll go through them, read them through, and discuss them briefly. But this is the data set that we wish to collect from each client upon enrollment, if applicable, if they have it. We are not saying, oh, well, we can't help you if you don't have all these things. We don't know what each client has, so we begin with asking them to provide what they do have, and from there we can help them. So let's go through the list. But again, I know you're sharp and you're paying attention, but the biggest problem we have with some of our distribution partners and clients is that they're ignoring this point that I'm making over and over. It is not all or nothing. You provide what you have. You obviously don't provide what you don't have. So the first thing is the business plan with financial projections. We had a great training yesterday talking about how we help clients with that. So if you wanted to be a pessimist, you'd say, well, Tom, we're supposed to help them with that. Why in the hell are we asking them for that when they first sign up? Because we don't know if they already have one. If they have it, it would be great to collect right away. If they don't have it, they skip and they go to the next item on the list. You see the point? We're not creating barriers or boundaries. We're not reneging on our commitments. We're just simply collecting the data that they have. Make sense? Personal financial statement, the PFS, that is so valuable to collect as early as possible in the process. If they don't have one, that's okay. We're going to help them create one, or you as a white label partner will. Same with the business plan. If they don't have one, we're going to help them create one. But they might already have a business plan. They might already have a personal financial statement. So it kind of makes sense for us to ask them first, which of these items do you have, and provide them. You follow me? If they have a key person policy, personal income tax returns, business. And again, I'll get people that are, I guess, thick-skulled, like, well, I haven't filed tax returns. I just started my business. Well, fine. Again, that's why it says if applicable. That's why it says it isn't all or nothing. Just do not get hung up on, oh, I don't have it. This is a scam. I don't have all of this. It's not a scam. We're collecting the basic data set that is helpful for creating a funding plan. So we have personal tax returns, business, interim financials, and balance sheet. Again, we'll help them if they don't have it. Personal bank statements for the past 3 months, business bank statements for the past 3 months, if applicable. Copy of driver's license for proof of identity. If they have a lease, provide documentation of that. We need to have that initial formation document. So whenever they formed their DBA, their LLC, their corporation, that's very important to have. That's the time stamp of when the entity was created. We'd like to see their FICO SBSS score. This is their business credit, and then a resume or bio. So again, if they have it, we ask them to provide it. If they don't have it, they don't provide it, and then we can decide what may be important based upon their funding plan and help them fill the gaps. It does clarify anyone with 20% or more ownership needs to provide those individual items. You see the asterisks. So the process for us, for our direct clients, is we send this to them via Adobe. It prompts them for signature to acknowledge that they've received it. If they don't sign it, they get reminders each day. And then it tells them what to do once they've pulled it together. It's not to email us this mega large email response with 20 attachments. That's not it. That's not what we do. It clearly states, once you have all these documents available, please email us, and then we're going to set up their Dropbox folder. If you're a white label partner, you should probably just create a subfolder in your white label partner Dropbox, label it based upon the client's name, and have them add or have them provide you, and then you upload those files into that subfolder of Dropbox. The last instruction here is we need to know once the documents have been provided. True, Dropbox notifies us each time there's a change in each Dropbox folder, but we get a lot of those notifications, and also they may still be working on it. So there's only 2 instructions. When you're ready, let us know, and we'll provide a Dropbox. Again, if they're a white label partner client, you're going to take care of that in most cases. And then after that, let us know once you're finished uploading what you have, so we can take it to the funding committee. Well, what's the funding committee? Well, the funding committee is where we do the capital match. It's where we review the documents and create a funding plan. I routinely have white label partners that kind of get agitated. The funding committee doesn't meet 40 hours a week or 80 hours a week, or we'll have some that want to talk about these things at 9 p.m. at night. So the funding committee normally meets Wednesday evenings and Saturday mornings. And so once we get the documents in, we put them on the funding committee agenda, and then they can be reviewed Wednesdays and Saturdays. So that's page one. Page two is just as important. It provides the client access to the financial literacy curriculum. Free, award-winning, starts with getting ready for your capital raise. If you're a white label partner and you're not somehow helping educate your clients about these basics, you're really doing your client a disservice, maybe yourself as well, because there's certain credibility elements that may be oblivious, that the client may be oblivious to. They don't realize it even matters. And so we want to educate them and prepare them for a capital raise. And so that happens based upon the getting ready for the capital raise, the 27 mistakes on demand. And then we have 4 modules. If you're a white label partner, you can decide how involved you want to be. You can just simply provide access to it and say, here it is. We recommend you go through it. You're off and going. Alternatively, you can even have them fill out participant guides and help them go through it. So it's up to you as a white label partner how much in-depth involvement you want to have. But regardless, providing access to the curriculum is important. And then related to module 2. Now, if you remember, if you're around that long, we used to distribute these once a week. So it took 4 weeks. Now they have access to them all right away, right? Because all of these are visible on the page. I do want to bring to your attention that we highlight the 2 action steps that are related to module 2. We want to get that soft credit pull as soon as possible. That can help us really narrow down the best source of funding, including the first tranche, and then the personal financial statement. You'll see that there's a link to the form and a link to detailed instructions. And we've had a recent training on how to help clients fill out a PFS and some of the pitfalls. So with that being said, let me go back to the top. What questions, comments, concerns do any of you have regarding this document? If you're a white label partner and you don't have a Word version, you need it, email us, right? Email support@guaranteedfunding.org and request it, and we'll send it or resend it to you, whatever the case, we'll get it to you. If you're an affiliate, then now you know better how the process works, but it's not your burden as an affiliate to be involved. So who has questions, comments, concerns as we wrap up our abbreviated Friday training? The purpose of today's visit was to review the Building Your Loan Package Adobe and its purpose. Number one, it shows and it documents to the client that we have implemented you. You have signed up and we have implemented you. Secondly, it lets them know what they need to do next. It provides them immediate access to the small business certification curriculum. And in my opinion, you may agree or disagree, it's showing value right away. So Timothy has the first question for today. And if anyone else has questions, just type it into the Q&A box. It's like Zoom. So Timothy's question is, well, what about the deposit? That's right. So each client has promised to pay, assuming that everyone's using the standard agreement. If you've modified it, then this may not apply directly. But in general, clients have promised to pay a $2,500 refundable deposit after their first tranche of funding. Had a client, Miranda, wonderful woman, yesterday. She was heated and she said, well, you guys promised that there's no upfront cost, and there is an upfront cost. There's not. I mean, we can talk until you're blue in the face. There's not an upfront cost. There is a deposit. The client knows about it from the time they've been enrolled. We don't ask them to pay for that until their first tranche of funding. That first tranche of funding could come from a number of different sources. And yes, they will need to pay back that first tranche of funding. So if they get a loan from Navy Federal Credit Union through our program for $25,000 for their first tranche, yeah, Navy Federal would like to be repaid. Now, whatever those terms and interest rates and length of repayment, all those specifics are between Navy Federal and the client. We don't dictate that. So I think in some cases, clients can overlook the obvious. Yeah, they're coming to you and I to borrow money. You and I aren't the lenders, we're the technical advisors, but they're coming to us, you and I, you or I guess, to take on debt. Right. That's why people come to us, is to take on a lot of debt that's going to have payments. And a lot of people want a lot of debt, which is going to have really big payments, because that's what it is. When you borrow money, you're going to have some sort of repayment provisions. So there is, Timothy, as your point is inferring, there is no upfront cost. There is a deposit that the client agrees to when they enroll. It doesn't trigger until they've received their first tranche or first round of funding. And that first tranche could look like different things based upon their mitigating circumstances. But I think Timothy's point was more specifically, normally we would get actively engaged with working with the client in building a loan package once they have paid their deposit, because that's what the deposit's going towards. What we've done here is, even before they've paid their deposit, we're getting them plugged into the system. They know what we're going to be working on. They have full access to the training. So even before they've received their first tranche of funding, even before they've paid their deposit, they're plugged in and seeing value. You see that? Okay. Who else has questions, comments, concerns on the building your loan package? It's a very important document. If you're a white label partner, we really should be getting this out to each new client the moment after they contract, as soon as possible from the time that they either sign your agreement or agree to your terms and conditions. Get this to them. It's a great CYA, because again, it shows that you're implementing right away. But also it creates some immediate value to the client. Okay, I signed up and I see right away, I see the roadmap of what we're working on. I can start gathering these documents and I can start improving my financial literacy. Questions, comments, concerns before we hang it up today on Friday, February 3rd. All right, we'll see you all back Monday morning. Have a great day. Bye.